Welcome back to the channel. And when we last left you off, we were finishing up the cat body, and we have since completed it. If you were a member, you would have seen this last Friday. But we got the rest of the decals on it. We got the side dams on it, and looks pretty cool. The only thing left is to put some electronics in it and get this thing on the track. I do have to order some 2.2-inch wheels. I meant to do that this week, but I haven't done it. Anyway, this week, with the all the big hype about the 10T coming out, when we sold the links that we built on here a couple weeks ago, we just reinvested that money, and we picked up a 10T2. I personally like this truck a little bit better. I think it looks pretty cool, and it is the last of the true pan chassis. It's deceivingly rough. It doesn't. I got a screw in here. It's messing with me. It looks a little rough. It's got a couple extra holes that don't need to be there. It's got that proverbial hole that everybody drills to put a to adjust your servo saver without taking the servo out. I think we can live with that one. But anyway, we picked this thing up a couple weeks ago on eBay. We just flipped it right over when we sold the links. For what I have in this truck, the features, it's got CVDs that aren't bent. It's got the team shocks. They don't look all gouged up. And it has bearings versus the new kit that don't come with bearings, CVDs, or the hard-coated shocks. It does have carbon fiber shock towers on both ends. The rears may have been upside down once or twice, but they're not chipped. It's got a little wear on them. They don't look too bad. But this is going to be our next project. We're going to restore this. We have picked up a few parts already. I picked up 2 sets of J Concepts wheels. They still make wheels that fit it because it is a pin drive. It's not hex like the new trucks. Fan RC, I picked up an extra bulkhead because we're going to race this truck. And just like the RC10, I think this was a weak point as far as racing. Our buddy Chris has some arms. We hadn't picked those up yet because the only thing really... I'm wondering if somebody played with this truck after racing it for a while because it looks like he got on the pavement a little bit. And this arm has worn down pretty good. And that wouldn't happen on a normal track conditions if it was dirt. That looks like a curb or something. It ain't broke, but it's just wore down. And these scratches are a little deep. It looks more like pavement than an off-road track. But considering how old it is, and that's no worse than it is, I'm very pleased with it. These extra holes back here, I'm not sure what they were for. Maybe another battery mount. That's what I'm thinking. They may have had the battery, 2 of these in there. That's what it appears. It looks like it lines up. And then for some reason, they drilled 2 extra servo holes and repositioned the servo. We might live with those because it's not impeding anything and it doesn't look too bad. They actually did a pretty good job. I'm going to fill these because they don't need to be there. I might leave that one for the convenience, but we're going to smooth all the scratches out. I was going to powder coat it, but I think I'm just going to paint it. I'm going to paint it the same color as my real truck. Almost neon yellow, the Guru green color. Automotive paint will be strong enough. We will run a chassis protector just because even powder coat will wear off when it's dragging the ground, dragging the track. I'm not worried about scratches on the sides. Powder coat again if you're hitting rocks and stuff, but we're going to run this on a dirt indoor track most likely. So I'm not worried about rocks and gravel and stuff chipping it up. I will go through all the proper procedures of sanding it, prepping it, the raw metal prep and all that we'll do. The motor guard's got a little rough edges here and there, but I'm not too concerned about that either because I believe that'll all sand out and then we can body work that a little bit. It's got an RPM gear cover. The gears don't sound real healthy, but they don't sound bad either. They're just really loose. And we may have a hookup on some new gears as well. I'm not sure if these trucks have the 2.6 transmission. I don't know. I have to do a little more research. I won't know until we actually take it apart and count the teeth, I guess. I'm not an expert by any means on RC10s. I just know I like a T2 and the B2s and the original RC10Ts and buggies. We are going to have a hopefully 10T re-release on the channel soon as they are available. If our local shop gets them, they are supposed to get some. They don't know how many, but some, and our name is on one of them. We'll go over it, and may not be the most exciting video, but here's the 10T video preemptively before the 10Ts come out. So stick around, let's tear it apart. Alright, we did go back to J Concepts and picked up an RC10T body, the Ford, 93 Ford. The only people that make an actual box stock or factory type replacement body, there's Team Blue Groove makes a reproduction of a T2 body. I believe a 10T body should fit. This body is narrower than the stock body that came on the original 10T, and the 10T2 was narrower. So hopefully we'll be okay with that. I did open it up, and it looks like it's going to fit. It is quite a bit narrower than the original 10T body. And it looks like it's going to line up just fine. So we'll have to trim it a little bit, and then I'll throw a set of wheels on it and just kind of get it a mock-up stage. Alright, we got a set of wheels. We're just going to set them on here. I don't have any tires. I think the wheels alone should help us get an idea or perspective of where everything's going to land. And just going to put them on hand tight. Thankfully, J Concepts, people like J Concepts, and this Fan RC, JC Racing Products, and I think they're in Europe somewhere, England. They are supporting the vintage racers and reproducing a lot of these parts, because it would be very nerve-wracking to race something like this, knowing that the spares are non-existent. But luckily now, with the technology we have today, they are getting reproduced. Got the body trimmed up. I just cut on the cut lines, and like I said, there's no, well actually there's a hint. That might just be bubbles in the mold. There is a hint of some body mounts. It might be, because that looks like one on each side and one on the rear. So evidently a 10T body posts are further apart, because if that's the case, these are not going to line up. But the front should match, because the front is the same. But it does fit like it's supposed to. We got full suspension travel without interference. It fits on the rear shock tower nice. So it lines up. Let me get you out of camera angle there. So I think we're going to be okay. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Keep dropping names like I'm sponsored by somebody. I'm sponsored by me. And I'm sponsored by my 8 members. If you want to be a member, click that join button. You'll get early access to some of these videos. And I try my best to put out a Friday video for the members. I've had 8 loyal people be on the membership since I was eligible to have members. And appreciate every bit of it. Alright, we're back. I got the holes cut. Once I got it on there, I had to trim a little bit around to clear the front shock spring. I'm wondering if this is the difference between the T2 and the T. Is the body fits, but it's too high up. You got too much chassis hanging out, and it's not quite going in the body post, and the body posts are in the highest position, and it's hitting the shock towers. And the shock towers are unique to a T2, so I'm wondering if that's the difference. I think we're going to be okay, but I'm going to cut a groove in the body right here and see if I can channel it down. It only needs to come down about 1/8 of an inch, so if we got a little bit of shock tower hanging out, if we do it right, it'll look pretty cool. But it fits everywhere. The wheel openings fit, everything's clearing. The wheelbase looks pretty much right. The front you can't tell because it's always kind of wild because of the way they're set back. But a T2 must be a little bit longer and a little bit lower, and the body's a little taller in the bed to accommodate so they get the body down low enough. But yeah, let me get the old Dremel tool out. We're going to cut some grooves here and see if this is going to remedy our problem. A little bit of mini trucking ingenuity here. If it don't fit, just cut it and it'll make it fit. Alright guys, I saved y'all the noise of the Dremel tool. I scored a nice little line with the X-Acto knife and used the technique that I used to use on A-scale bodies. I kind of scored it, got me in one end started and kind of pulled it out. And then just took the Dremel with the cone-shaped stone and rounded the edges off. And there's our little reliefs in the body. And I think we might have solved our problem between our T2 and T body situation. And now the body is all but even with the chassis. Still a little bit tall, but we still have room to grow because we're in the highest position, and on the body post we can go down 2 more holes. And I think if we might be able to stand 1 more hole before the shocks have to protrude from the chassis. We don't want to have to cut the shocks out, but we still have the number plates if we do have to cut it any lower. But it's pretty even all the way across as far as what's exposed, and I think that looks pretty good. If I would have known that beforehand, I would have left some of the body from the flashing before I cut it off, because it did hang down quite a bit, and I could have solved that problem just by simply leaving extra material on the body. But I cut it on the cut line, and that's what we got. I need to look at a box art picture and see how much, if any, of the chassis is hanging out. So I'll have to check that out, do a little research now that it's got me curious. Anyway, there is our mock-up, and just want, like I say, I want to test fit the body before we tore it down, because I didn't want to be doing this. Well, it gives an opportunity to paint the body before we finish the project, because RC10 is next. Alright guys, I'm back, and I'm not done hacking on the body here. I did a little research off camera, and the T2 appears as if the bed's a little bit taller. The roll bar appears to be just above the roof of the body, which means the bed would be raised, which would lower the body. And there's no chassis showing on the side. If I would have caught that prior to cutting this out, I could have left a little material here and been good. But I went ahead and dremeled some more here, and I made clearance. We're still going to have our number plates on the side to protect the shock tower, but we basically had to channel the body over the shock tower to get it down lower. It's still not quite low enough, but it's practically even with the chassis now. There's very little, I mean very little showing. But and we still have, like I said, right there, we still have our number plate right here going to protect the shock tower. The shocks do not protrude from the body, so it looks a little rough now, but that's a lot of the protective film getting fluffed up from the Dremel tool. But there is a kind of a tip, I guess, if you're going to run a 10T body on a 10T2. We got about maybe a little less than 1/8 of an inch of chassis showing now, and I can live with that. Unless I can't, I'll buy another body. But yeah, I think that's fine. The body's going to be basically neon yellow too, so we may tie the color in on the graphics. We'll keep that in mind as we go. So yeah, the front can't go any lower, and the front shouldn't have to, but it's because the front ends are the same. And we're not hitting the body anywhere. We're getting real close to the shock body right here on the hood scoop. But that shouldn't be any different whatsoever, just because the front ends are identical. Unless the body goes a little bit further forward on a T2 also, but if it's a little bit longer in the nose. But that looks very workable. I can live with that. That's worth putting effort into a cool paint job, so it looks good across the back. Just like I say, just got about an 1/8 inch chassis showing on the side, and that's not too bad. Alright, OCD in full effect here. Alright, it's the next day, and happy Father's Day. We're running a little bit late again this week, but we're still going to get a video out today. It's Sunday. So we're going to get into tearing this thing down. I'm not going to get super detailed as far as we're not going to take the shocks apart. May crack the transmission open and check out the situation with the gears. They all spin super free, but they're a little noisy, so we'll see what that's about. And yeah, let's get to taking this thing apart. Alright, first things first, we're going to pop the shocks off. We'll throw the shocks and all the related hardware into a bag here so we don't get anything lost. Nothing out of the ordinary. There was a touch of thread lock on the jam nut, which is normal, which is what you probably want to do. The shocks feel really good, even though we are going to rebuild them, because there is a little bit of, there's no telling how long they've been together. But we'll do that once we start putting it back together. We'll tear everything down and put it back. Hopefully we can find a rebuild kit for the shocks. Before we tear them completely down, we'll make sure we can get a kit. Next thing, we're going to go ahead and tear the front end apart. Nothing too out of the ordinary, I can already tell. We're missing the E-clip, or this A-arm hit some pavement or something and it pushed the pin back. It ain't bent, it's still moving freely. It just knocked the E-clip off. And yeah, everything's pretty straightforward from here, so we'll pop this front end apart right quick. Alright, we got the front end pretty much torn apart. I'm not going to take the arms off yet. It appears as if this thing's been together since '95. These little foam gaskets, or little filters you put around your ball studs, they are turning into dust. You just touch them. So I imagine they're original. I don't think this truck's had a real hard life, just by what I can tell so far. I think this the last little bit somebody may have let their kid or somebody play with it out in the street, and that's the only real damage, is that arm right there. Wore off on the end, and that's where we got the gouges in the chassis. That's not a problem, they're not too deep. None of this is bent. The little kick up on the front is straight, and yeah, that's not going to be a problem at all to fix those little scratches. But we will soak all this stuff in some simple green, and we'll get all the steel out of it and all the metal parts, and we'll soak this in simple green, and then we'll reassess on what we're going to need to replace. Probably buy new hardware for it, just because a lot of these are fine, but they're just a little rusty, and might put stainless. We don't have titanium budget. I'd love to put titanium hardware in it, it'd be awesome, but we'll probably just buy a stainless kit. The stainless kit's pretty cheap for this truck. So there's our front end. We're going to move on to the back half, and we'll wrap this thing up. Alright, there's the back half. Again, nothing unusual. Some of the heads on these aluminum screws were smeared pretty good on the pavement, and it was a little bit difficult to get a screwdriver in there, but we got them off. Thread lock in some telltale places, like in the motor guard, and one of the heads of those screws had some debris in it. It was a little bit difficult, but it came out. No major issues. There's our RPM gear cover. And we got a, looks like a Robinson Racing 90 tooth. Looks like it's pretty fresh. Very little markings on it. Transmission is really smooth, but it does just make a little noise. I'm thinking maybe it's just some just from age. Anyway, let's pop it apart and see what we got inside here. Yeah, I really don't see, there's not any debris. There's no grease on the gears. Maybe that's why it's a little noisy. I think that plate's supposed to pop off. It hasn't been run to death. Normally you see that little notch in where the dog bone end would wear out the outdrive. Idler gear's clean. And for some reason I think that has to pop off, but I'm not going to bend it trying. There we go. Spacer. I'm not going to pull that pin out because I don't want to lose the pin. Bearings are super smooth. I think it's just a little noisy because the gears are dry, and I guess technically they should be. You don't need a bunch of grease in there, but they don't have any, and that's just the noise. But maybe just a little, maybe it's a little smoother without a bunch of grease in it. That's definitely a relief. We don't have to worry about buying transmission parts. I think we just need to clean it up, put it back together. This I just want to get tore down. That way I can, if I got any spare time at work, I will take the chassis and I will get all it worked out, all the scratches worked out, and we'll get it ready for paint or powder, but I think I'm going to paint it. I haven't had an issue painting with automotive paint on these chassis. Even powder is going to wear off and get scratched. It's a little more durable. It's a lot more durable, I'm not going to lie. Probably soak it in some lacquer thinner and get all these glue off of it. Somebody CA glued the Velcro to the chassis, and then got all the tape. You can do a little forensics in here. You can kind of see where everything was. Obviously the servo was here. He servo taped it and had it mounted to the chassis. This side would be your receiver because obviously you had your antenna. I'm not sure what was wadded up here. It could be wires. And then over here is your speed control. And you can see where they peeled everything out with a flathead screwdriver when they were taking their electronics out and scratched the chassis up. So other than that, the thing is really really good shape for 30 years old. No bends, no cracks, not too many extra holes. Again, doing the chassis forensics, I'm assuming that right there they was trying to put another battery mount. They were trying to put one of these back there, and the holes do line up even though it's not centered, but we're going to fill those up. And yeah, their drill bit walked on them right there a little bit, looks like. And yeah, I think we got a good deal. We got good bones. This is going to be an awesome project once it gets started. Well, it has to get started now, but once it gets to the finishing stages. The motor brace is in, kind of looked bent, but I think it's just the way it's made right there, and it fits, and everything was bolted up, nothing was bound up. We're going to sand those scratches out, refinish that, and the chassis will be done well before anything else, but we don't need too many parts. We need new arms for the front, just because, well, we only need one actually, but we'll probably replace the arms. Maybe buy the fan RC stuff, or my buddy Chris has got some RPM and some factory parts, and we can get those from him. We'll probably use those. Yeah, may buy some fan parts for replacements if we need them at the race, if we break anything. That is pretty much it. We're going to bag up the back half here, get another bag for the transmission so I don't get that anything misplaced. I don't know how readily available those parts are. I know they make a reproduction transmission, but I don't know if it's the same as this, because I think there was a couple of different versions. Don't quote me on any of this. Got a lot of useless information up here. I'll put the motor mount. No, motor mount staying black. We're not going to paint that just because there's nothing wrong with it. This thing hasn't had a motor in it. I mean, not much. That's a good sign. Normally, the holes are all reamed out and chewed up from using the wrong screws or no washers, and that's super clean. So whoever ran this thing didn't run it a lot. If they did, they were very careful, because that's always scratched. All right, let's wrap this thing up. All right, guys, that's a wrap for today's video. Wasn't much, but I had to get something out that was necessary to get that thing torn apart so we can get started on it. And yeah, stay tuned for the build of that, and tune in Wednesday for I'm not sure what. We're going to maybe go crawling today, later this afternoon, and may put some of that out there. But either way, tune in Wednesday and see what we got. And thanks again. We'll see you then.